To call an ambulance for a mere headache and vomiting is overreacting. If you are so worried, why don't you just come home and take care of her? I mean, isn't that your job? Don't rely on me. I don't have time for this. I'm leaving now. You have to take care of the rest of yourself. While my daughter cried and crouched in pain, my husband left the house. She had always been healthy and never had any serious illnesses. How was it an overreaction when such a daughter was suffering? It was clear that he was not concerned about her at all. I was out working at the time, but fearing for her life. I immediately returned home and called an ambulance myself. If I had been there for her from the beginning, she didn't need to suffer so much. As I held her hand, I cried from frustration and blamed myself. 5 days later, when my husband finally called me, I quietly told him, I'm in the middle of our daughter's funeral. I'm Stacy, 45 years old. I work part-time and do my best to take care of the house and raise my daughter. I met my husband through a matchmaker. When I was single, I had a full-time job in a field that was dominated by females. It was difficult for me to meet someone at or through work. I had always had a strong desire to get married and didn't want to wait until I was older. I decided to go to a matchmaking service and was introduced to my husband, Wayne. He was a meticulous person who did things very carefully. On the other hand, I was more laid back, so at first, I thought we were two opposites and incompatible. As we got to know more about each other, we came to respect our differences. We were so in love that it was hard to believe we met through a matchmaker. I was grateful for my luck fate. When we got married, Wayne only wore the ring during the ring exchange as he was allergic to it. We enjoyed our honeymoon period to the fullest, and then we conceived 2 years after our marriage. A healthy baby was born, and we were overjoyed. You did great, honey. We have a very pretty baby girl. Thanks, hon. She's adorable. Let's do our best to raise her with lots of love. He was totally head over heels for our daughter, Mia, even more than I was. He even used her birth weight for the license plate number and passwords. Seeing him like that filled me with the warmth of love, and I believe we will continue to live happily ever after. As the months passed and around the time Mia entered high school, Wayne suddenly started working overtime a lot. I'm in charge of a new project now. I'll be home late today, so don't wait for me. In the worst case, I'll have to stay overnight at the office. I understand. It's really tough every day, isn't it? I'm grateful that you're working hard, but don't overdo it. I'm sure it's okay if you come home early once in a while. Love you. I was proud of him for climbing the ladder at work. However, he seems to be overworked to the point of locking himself in the study on his days off. I understood that he was exhausted and needed some time alone. There were hardly any interactions with his family, which created a gloomy atmosphere in the house. Mia had always been a daddy's girl since she was little. Dad's been locked in his study a lot lately. I understand that he's busy, but I want to hang out with him like we used to. She lamented with me. I knew I had to do something for her and suggested to Wayne, Hey honey, why don't we go out for dinner this coming weekend for the first time in a while? I was taken aback by his unexpected response. You're gonna be kidding, right? You know I'm exhausted. Is this harassment? Why can't you just let me relax on my day off? He suddenly lashed out at me. You don't have to get mad at me. It's not good for you to stay cooped up in your room all day long. Going out is a good way to refresh yourself after a hard day's work, isn't it? I tried to calm him down. Leave me alone. You guys go ahead and do what you want. He was adamant in his refusal. Since then, he began to pick on me out of his frustration and sarcastically commented, I so envy your freedom. I spent more time with Mia, but she was hurt by not getting attention from her father and locked herself in her room. I felt that my family was on the verge of collapse and hoped that once his project was finished, our normal, cheerful life will return. 1 month had passed since then. I'm going on a training trip with my team for 5 days starting tomorrow. I was surprised at the suddenness of the news, and at the same time, I asked him what bothered me. Oh, that's so sudden. Besides, it's already been a month since you were assigned to your new project. Are you still doing the training? I questioned the duration. Nothing odd about the prolonged training. Keep your nose out of my business. He kicked me to the curb. I was frustrated with his grumpiness and wondered when he would be able to spend time with the three of us. The next day, he was getting ready to leave for the trip. He was still at home when I left the house for work. My daughter was off school for a substitute holiday. I thought they could spend a little time together before he left. I was hoping that they could talk about some of the things that had piled up. Right after I arrived at work, I received an unexpected text from Mia. Mom, my head hurts so bad. I feel like it's going to crack. I feel nauseous too. I can't take it anymore. She seemed to be fine when I left home, but she suddenly felt ill. I called her in a hurry, but she wasn't picking up the phone. I called Wayne for help. Are you still at home? Mia sounds like she's in a lot of pain. Can you call an ambulance right away? I had lost my grandmother to a subarachnoid hemorrhage, so I was very concerned that she was suffering from the similar symptoms. It's just a headache and vomiting. Don't you think you're overreacting? If you're so worried, why don't you come back and take care of her? I'm leaving soon, so you take care of the rest. His reaction was unbelievable. Despite his daughter's distress, he was about to leave for a trip. Wait, what the hell? How could you not help your own daughter when she is in such trouble? Is your job that important to you? I lashed out at him in a harsher tone than usual. I'm telling you, you're just making a big deal. It's raining today. She must be feeling the pressure. Anyway, if you came back, the problem would be solved. Time management is a basic rule for my job. I can't be late for something like this. He threw all the responsibility on me and put his work first. I felt no affection for Mia from him, who used to care so much about her. I hung up the phone and made my way home, praying. He had already gone, and I found Mia unconscious in the living room. The ambulance came right away and rushed her to the hospital. I called Wayne after the doctor explained to me her symptoms. He must have been busy and didn't pick up my calls. If I had been there for her, she didn't need to suffer so much. I shed tears and regretted my helplessness. 5 days later, I finally received a call from Wayne in the evening. The first thing that came out of his mouth was, "You don't have to prepare my dinner tonight." I was stunned for a moment. I had been wondering how he could come home after leaving Mia in that condition. He didn't even call to find out how she was in those 5 days, and it sounded as if nothing had ever happened. I cut to the chase and told him, "I'm in the middle of our daughter's funeral right now. I can't prepare dinner anyway. Your trip is over, right? Can you come over now? As a father, it was expected of him to attend his daughter's funeral. To my surprise, he kept indifferent. Oh, I see. Well, I won't be able to make it. You can deal with it yourself. He showed no sorrow whatsoever. I reached a boiling point and my anger exploded. I resolved to tell him everything that was on my mind when he got back home. He returned late at night. Why didn't you call an ambulance right away? Do you have any idea how much you suffered? I had been waiting for this moment and immediately started attacking him. Oh, come on. I haven't been home in a while and you don't even welcome me back. Even if I called an ambulance that day, it doesn't mean she survived, right? What's done is done. I brought you some sweets. Make yourself feel better. I was stunned by no sign of remorse from him and lost all energy to argue. He seemed to take advantage of it. Give me all the insurance money. I'm the one who has been paying for everything in regard to our daughter. You're just a part-timer with a low income, so you have no right to it. He grinned at me. How can you say such a thing right after losing our precious daughter? It's not all about work. Why don't you think about your family a little? His inhuman arrogance infuriated me. He was not intimidated by me, though. It's your responsibility to take care of daughter's health. It's your fault for not fulfilling your duty. It's a false accusation to say that she died because of me. He snapped back at me. I knew that arguing with him would get me nowhere. I produced an image that caused tremendous stress for Mia. You hurt her and put her under stress to the point of destroying her health. Don't tell me you know nothing about this. I showed it to him on Mia's phone. It was a picture of him shopping with a young woman, arm in arm like a couple. On the day he left for the trip, Mia took the opportunity of being alone with him. She showed him the image she had taken and asked him about the affair. She also recorded the conversation. He flipped out knowing it would be a huge problem if I found out. How dare you! If you tell your mother about this, I'll make sure you will regret it. He threatened her. She told me all of this despite suffering in the hospital bed. That's been having an affair with a young woman behind our back. It was so unbelievable, and the shock and the stress were too much. I started getting headaches and nausea. He used to love me and care for me, but I can't take it anymore. Mom, please, will you leave him? I demanded a divorce in response to Mia's request. Wayne looked at me, unfazed, saying it wasn't enough to prove his affair. Then, how about these? I threw printouts of the correspondence between him and his adulteress as conclusive evidence. You can't be serious. You got into my computer without my permission. I never told you my password. His expression changed drastically, and he was agitated. I took a liberty. You used Mia's birth weight as your car plate and PIN, didn't you? I thought you might have done the same with your password. Sure enough, I was right. When I looked at his emails and the messaging app on the computer, I found more than enough evidence. He lied to me and Mia that he was busy at work, but in truth, he had been almost cohabiting with the adulteress. The training trip he said he was going on with his team was just a trip with his adulteress using his paid leave. It's an invasion of privacy to go into someone's computer without their permission. He put up a desperate fight, but I relentlessly pursued him. It's wrong to keep things hidden from your family, don't you think? Oh, by the way, I also found a record of you unlawfully obtaining company money to pay off your girlfriend. You can't get away with it now, can you? Admit it now." He fell to his knees in a panic, as all his wrongdoings were exposed. I told him I was returning to my parents' house and left the house. A few days later, we filed for divorce. I was to have custody of Mia. I moved her to my parents' house while Wayne was away and focused on getting evidence of his infidelity at home. Before he returned from his trip, I had completed the moving process as well. By the way, I lied to him about Mia's funeral. I wanted to see him weigh between Mia and his affair. He thought that if she was gone, the affair would not be exposed, and he could secretly pay back the company with the insurance money. I realized what a scumbag he was, and I still shudder to think until this day. I gave evidence of him swindling company money to his HR, which led to his disciplinary dismissal. He was asked to refund the exact amount he had spent. He lamented that the amount was so inflated and that there was no way for him to pay in one lump sum. He was such a meticulous man that he had carefully written down the address and phone number of his adulteress on his computer. I contacted her and exposed the whole thing. It's normally a good thing to be meticulous, but in his case, it completely backfired on him. Thus, he's been dumped by his adulteress, and even his parents cut ties with him. He's been living lonely and working hard to pay the alimony, child support, and refunds to his ex-company. I've been told that he was so anxious about stealing money from work, so he was taking his stress out on me. "I'm really sorry. I only gave in to stupid temptation." He apologized and tried to get me back with him. It's way too late, and I refused to forgive him. After being subjected to immense stress every day, Mia, who used to be a daddy's girl, says, "I never want to see him again." She's been receiving the support of my parents and me, and positive advice from a friend in a similar situation. She's getting her normal self back. Are you sure you're happy that we got divorced as you wanted? Of course. A father I don't care about is nothing but a nuisance. I'm very happy to realize how deeply you cared about me. Thank you for being there for me, Mom. I love you. Thank you too for being my daughter. I love you so much. We held each other tightly in tears, realizing once again the importance of each other. We're taking the first step toward a brighter future together.